Hi, this set of videos is going to talk you through creating a photo montage in Adobe PhotoShop. If you don't know what photo montage is, then here's what we're looking at. We have a kind of an original backplate, and then we're adding items to the scene to give the impression that we're proposing this feature in this gap between these buildings. So you see the kind of original photograph here, and then proposal on top of that. So there's a lot of stages in this, and you need a lot of material to kind of go with it. So you can see the folder that the montage is coming from. There's a lot of files. There's a lot of stuff here. We've got people, trees, and other material to make up the construction. So what we're proposing here is to put this a living wall in a gap site in a street. So here's just a few examples of what the living walls are. Basically, a structure that's strong enough to hold a grid that's packed with soil, and then it's planted up with various plants, and you can create all sorts of interesting patterns with it. Here's a bit more kind of homogeneous one, where they're using basically the kind of just a rougher arrangement of planting here, so varying the plants. And then we've got one that's done a bit more cleverly, and this is a Van Gogh painting that's been turned into plants using kind of bluish grasses and green grasses to do that. So pretty clever. But this is the one we're going to borrow a chunk from to put into our design. So you can see that this portion goes into Photoshop, and we change its shape to suit. So along with that, so I'll just show you the kind of the basics first, the basis that we're starting with. Okay, so what I've done is taken the original photograph and printed that out. Okay, and then using tracing paper, I've traced over the top of it. So this looks pretty horrible. I didn't have access to a scanner at the time, so I pinned it on my wall and took a photograph of my sketch. But you can see here these marks are the corners of the original photograph from the printout. Okay, it's important to mark where the corners are so that we can get this image back into Photoshop. Okay, and then I've located the vanishing points, and what I mean by vanishing point is where lines like this eventually meet. Okay, they would come down to about a point over here and eventually meet. Okay, we notice these points, but the vanishing point on this side will actually be off the image, so that's a wee bit awkward to deal with. Okay, the vanishing point on this side, you would take a line like this and follow it down, and say this line here, which would originally have been horizontal. So any lines that are horizontal, you just join them together to form the vanishing points. Now this could have been drawn on top of Photoshop. I could have done it here if I increase the weight of this line so you can see it a bit clearer. Okay, so draw a line, just make sure it lays over the top of that, make it reasonably big. Okay, similarly here, if I take a line, it goes over that floor. Eventually we find a point for the vanishing point. Trouble is, on this side it's off the image, but I could increase the canvas size. So image, canvas size, extend it to this side, maybe add another 50%, or let's say put it in pixels and add a nice round number to it. So let's say we added another, say 2000 pixels onto there, so this will become 7184. Let's extend it using white, otherwise we won't be able to see what's happening. Okay, I'll just pop the layers back in there, and then if I draw lines on that side, just trace over any horizontal line Okay, Okay, and eventually they're starting to cross over just off the page. Okay, I've got some here. Notice they all basically end up crossing over the same point. It should work for these. Oh no, different, because the vanishing point for that building is in different positions. These are different angles. Okay, so ignore that one. Okay, so because these buildings aren't parallel to each other, they are ending up at a different vanishing point. Okay, I'm just going to undo all that because the idea here is that we've done the sketch on top of the photograph instead. Okay, so we're going to pull this into Photoshop. So the first thing you need to do though is prepare your background photo. You know, if there's anything that we want to get rid of, then we should do it now. So I'll just show you a couple of things that you could try to improve things here. So let's say we wanted to get rid of the for sale sign and the person. Okay, so we can zoom in. Okay. Now this first method only works with on a photograph where the background is the bottom layer. Okay, so if you look at the layers arrangement, there aren't any other layers. The photograph is effectively the background. So if you want to use this method, that's the way the image has to be. So it just has to be the very bottom layer. So if I select an area around this person, okay, I'm not making it too tight to the person. Now we'll try and get rid of the bin as well. Okay, and the man's shadow. Okay, and then if you press delete at this point, it should give you choices as to how you want to get rid of the material. Okay, and the default choice is to delete with content aware, which means it'll try and take this material and overlay it into where the person is gone. Okay, sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. It's tricky. Okay, so click OK, and that's not done a bad job at all. You know, it's brought the anything that's kind of coming into that edge has been replaced, so it's made it a very good job. The only things I need to do here are, you know, a little bit of tidying up here and there. Bear in mind this is a long way off. If I zoom back out, you know, somebody might not even notice that, but certainly the black line there needs to be tidied up and tidy up the corner. So select and deselect there, and then I'm going to use my clone stamp tool. I want to make it reasonably small because it's fairly detailed here, so we'll change the brush size. Okay, so that's the size of the brush. You can see the circle. So you hold Alt and you pick up the material at this point, let go, and you should see now that my cursor is carrying the material that I was selected with the Alt. So I try to get this in line. Okay, I can do the same alongside. I can bring the white material down. Now I need to come at it from the side. So I hold Alt, select there, and I can start to bring some of the white material across. A bit more of the vertical. Okay, that's not looking too bad. This looks a wee bit off in angle terms, so just tidy that up a little bit. And then I need to get in a much smaller brush to deal with that. Okay, a little bit of a thing hanging down there, I'll take that away. There's still some of the shadow, some of the man's shadow, so I'm pulling the pavement pattern across there to try and get rid of this shadow. You can make the brush semi-opaque if you think it's too strong. You can adjust that. And things are a little bit messy here, so we could try and improve that by picking up this line can try and restore that line. It's a bit messy above. That's looking a bit better. Here we've got just a little kind of dip at that point, which we could do with getting rid of. That's looking a bit better. Pick up that strongish line there. I'll bring that across. Right, I'll not try and do any more there because it'll probably make things worse than better. This is looking a bit off. The angle there is a little bit off, so we'll try and lift that a tiny bit. That's a bit better. Okay, the content aware, was the man there. Okay, similarly with the sign here, and what I'll do first though is mask an area. So I don't want to disturb the writing on the shop signs, so I'm going to protect those with a mask. Actually, I'll make that slightly transparent at the edge, so I'll feather that selection with 2 pixels. Okay, so I'll make it a little bit more transparent. We need to get in just below the sign there, go up the edge. So the clone stamp tool can only operate inside that area. Okay, but I can bring material in from outside, so maybe a bit bigger brush here because it's a bit bigger area. Let's go for 30, 35, something like that. Okay, so I'll pick up the material here and start painting over the sign, but it's not gonna take it over to this side. So let's pick up here and bring that in. That's looking better. Pick up some of this, bring it in. The sign is disappearing. I'll need to grab some of this material. Okay, do another swipe with that. And again. And finally, one more. Oops, see, it's cloned the text from there, so I'll pick up that. Keeps doing it, just. Okay. We'll see what it looks like without the marching ants, because sometimes you can leave a little bit of a residue, so a little bit of blending in there helps. There's a little hint of text there, but a little bit more cleaning up there. Okay, select and deselect. Okay, so any changes you need to make to your background, they've got to be done up front. Got to do that quick before we start messing around with everything. Okay, now what we want to do is cut out from the guide sketch. So we're going to use this. This is my little proposal of a shape for the living wall. Okay, so what I want to do is crop from this just the area that represented the photograph. So crop. I'll bring this in just roughly just now, just roughly size it. Everything up here wants to be clear. You don't want any restriction on the shape that you generate for the crop. Okay, now I need to be a bit more accurate and see what's happening up in this corner. So while the crop tool is active, you can hold the Alt key and roll the mouse, and it lets you zoom in while you're still cropping. Okay. So I can get to this target. Let's try that again. Let's jump to the middle. Okay, and I can see now that the alignment of my cropping window isn't the same as the alignment of that target. So if I come to the corner of the crop, you see my cursor changes to an arrow. I can turn things around to try and get this parallel with this. Okay, maybe a little bit more. So you might need to do this in a couple of attempts. We now can place the target much more accurately. So let's go to the other side and check what's happening with the other corner. And drag that on. That's pretty close. I don't think I could get it any straighter than that. Well, possibly. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so let's twist it around a little bit more. Okay, bear in mind this is a photograph, so there is a little bit of distortion because it's not a scan. Okay, but yeah, 6 and 2 3s there, it's probably was just as good before. Okay, so remember Alt and spin the middle mouse. You can zoom in and out while you're cropping. Okay, then apply the crop. You can press enter a couple of times or click the tick. Okay, that looks okay. You think you could take that straight to the photograph. I wouldn't go so quickly. Okay, right, because we need them to be the same size. So check the size of the original photograph. Okay, so in pixels it's 5184 by 3456. Okay, don't change it. Come to the guide sketch. Okay, image size. Okay, see, these are completely different sizes. Okay, I want to resample it because it's needing to get bigger. Okay, but I don't want it restricted in the proportion. So we take the padlock off. Okay, so this wants to be 5184 by 3456. Okay, how do we think about that? It's doubling the sizes, so it's 4 times the area. Okay, now we can copy, so it's Control A, Control C, and this gets dropped into the background. Okay, Control V. It should be exactly the same size. Okay, if I fade the sketch, we should see that it fits on top of the photograph. Okay, so that's looking pretty usable now. Okay, we can improve things here. So put it back in. What I don't want to see is all this sort of orangey background. Okay, the light in the room when the photograph was taken was pretty orange, so it looks pretty useless. Okay, so select, well, don't deselect. What we want to do is select a color range. Okay, the crop tool here seems to be hanging around, so I'm just going to press escape a couple of times. Okay, so we're going to lift the darker lines out of this messy background. Okay, and before you do that, if you improve the brightness and contrast of the sketch, so it's Image, Adjustments, Brightness, Contrast. So we'll increase the brightness, starting to see the yellow disappearing, and increase the contrast. Okay, we can get rid of the color altogether. It is a bit off-putting. Go to Image, Adjustments, Desaturate. By color. Okay, it's getting a bit better, but it's still a bit of a blotchy background. Image, Adjustments, go for your brightness and contrast again. So I can put the brightness up, but crank up the contrast. Okay, we're starting to see the background blotchiness disappear. So I'll leave it at that level. That looks pretty usable. And now do Select, Color Range. Right, actually, I'm going to zoom in first because it might help if I'm a bit closer. Okay, so I can see the dots that I'm going to be picking. So, select, color range. Okay, I'm going to set this fuzziness slider to the middle. Okay, and what this is a range of tones either side of the dot that you pick. So if I select a black dot, okay, it's given me some of the image but not everything, because these are grey, they're not black. So you can add to that selection. So you can add to your sampling. So start looking for slightly off black dots, and this starts to get more defined each time you pick. So what you've got to do here is just avoid accidentally picking a white dot. So we're getting much more definition now. Okay, so we've picked up quite a lot of dots and things are looking pretty sharp. Okay, but you can improve the selection by adjusting the range. So it should be picking right. So you see it's taken a lot of dots in relation to that. Okay, so it's a balance between the dots that you pick and the range either side. So I'm going to go with that. I can see my vanishing point lines, so they're okay, they're visible, and I've definitely got reasonable definition here. These are a bit too pale to risk picking, so I'm not going to pick any of those. So okay, so I've got control of what's mostly dark in the scene. If I invert that selection, go to select, inverse, we're now in control of what's not dark, so that can be deleted. And we should see our sketch sitting on top of the original. Okay, now do select, deselect, and that could be your graphic. So this could be your proposal just sitting on top of a photograph, very crude, but it's it's obvious what's happening. You're proposing to fill in that gap. Okay, what I might do here to make things a bit more legible is do image, adjustments, invert. Okay. Now if we wanted to, we could adjust the brightness of that. So it makes it a bit stronger. Okay, another way of doing that is to double up the layers. Okay, so let's rename this layer to sketch. I'll use capitals because the text here is very small. Okay, now if I wanted to do any perspective correction, this is the time to do it once this is in the montage. But the background needs to be free as well. So we need to go to the background, Control A, Control X to cut it, then Control V. Okay, so now the background is its own kind of lifted up layer. I'm going to call this back G. Now, I don't like the way there's kind of distortion on the windows here, so I'm going to try and make things a bit more vertical. Okay, so I'll join the two layers together, sketch and back G. So you hold Control and pick both layers at the same time, and then go to Edit, Transform, Distort. Now, I could have used the perspective transformation there, but I find Distort a bit easier to control. Okay, so I'm just pulling that till the window edges there look a bit more vertical. Okay. Similarly on this side, I can make things look a bit more vertical. Okay, by distorting the photograph and the sketch at the same time. Okay, that looks not too bad. Okay, hit the tick. Okay, I can get rid of the material down here. I don't need to see that stuff in the bottom corner there. Oh, wrong layer. Want to be on the sketch only, and delete that. Oh, deleted the sketch layer there. Silly me. Okay, do the selection again, and then delete. This keeps taking it from both layers. Right, hold on. I'm getting mixed up here. Right, just the sketch layer. Selections there. Delete. Thank you. Let's get rid of that. Okay, I'll not do any major cropping to this just yet. We'll save that for the end. So select and deselect, and this is it ready to start the more graphic work. So I'm going to save this. Okay, and I'm going to call it Montage End Stage 1. Okay, so I'll put these available for people to download. Okay, so it's ready to go. So we'll stop the video at that point and we'll pick up in the second part.